Hello everybody, this is Andy, and welcome to episode 13 of Omnifactory. And behind me you see, there is one extra blast furnace. Or, not blast furnace, assembler. I'm so used to playing New Horizons, oh my goodness. I added this assembler with polyethylene for a specific reason. There is a recipe conflict with, let me find it. These components, there is the SMD diode and the SMD transistor. If you try and craft both of these at the same time in the same machine, this fine annealed copper wire can actually create these diodes right here. And we don't want these diodes because, they're pretty much useless to us at this point. So I have a second machine set up to do one of those crafts, and the other machine has the other of those crafts, and I added the rest of my assembler crafts into these machines because I felt like, it would work out fine. Also, I added one more thing that I said I wouldn't be doing. However, I decided I'm going to do it not one time, but for one specific item. As you can see, these chests have a bunch of circuits in them. I have set up eevee level emitters down here that are, these export buses have crafting cards in them and redstone cards. The level emitters point towards the export buses, so if I have, let's say, 200 of these refined circuits in this chest, it will stop crafting them. But if I, take it out, it has less than 200 and it says, oh my goodness, I have to craft. And then eventually it will send to the machine in there and it'll turn on. Yep, you see it. And that guy turns on and it will send more refined circuits into there. Perfect. And then the eevee level emitter turns back on. I'm going to use crafting cards for the circuits only. Crafting cards are very bad. They will destroy your TPS and lag the ever-living heck out of your game. However, with just like 8 or 9 items being crafted using crafting cards, I think we'll be okay. As you can see in my inventory, we now have everything that we need for the vacuum freezer. It was actually fairly simple. So let's go ahead and assemble this thing, and I think this guy will be one of the last things we assemble in this room. This guy is also a 3x3 multi-block, however, it needs fluid input and fluid output, and item input and item output. So let's put the item output there, fluid output there, item input, fluid output, fluid input, item input, and then an energy input in the back. I think this has to go in the back middle for some reason. However, I'm not really asking questions. I think this is one of the weirder machines to assemble. But the item the multi-block formed, and if I go ahead and grab those canthal ingots, I should be able to solidify them now. Alright, ready to burn my hands. Let's go shove them in the vacuum freezer really quickly, and go in there. It's doing its thing. And out the other side, we're getting canthal ingots. Okay, one thing I do want to test with this machine is can I add multiple item input buses? So let me grab a couple more and see if I can do that. Alright, I added 3 ULV item input buses on the top and it looks like it has no issues. So we should be good to go and set this up. The reason I want to have extra item input buses is because I essentially want to put an item interface for one of these to provide the hot ingots as soon as they enter our eevee system. However, we don't have to worry about that yet. We don't have any hot ingots, except for maybe some canthal. However, we need to make titanium. The best way to make titanium is to make canthal first. So I set up this auto crafting system and kind of configured our vacuum freezer. I'm going to start picking those up, aren't I? So we will supply our hot ingots in here, the general hot ingots, and they will get cooled and then sent back into our eevee system through an eevee interface on blocking, or not on blocking mode, on you can't see it mode. Also up here, I just have a little mixer that is mixing canthal dust, shoving it into the thing, and creating canthal automatically. And then I have a level emitter saying I want 256 of this at the most, because canthal doesn't really have a whole lot of resources. However, once we get to, I think, 64 canthal, we can create... No. I need 2 stacks of canthal to create 1 set of coils for it. And now, it's finally time for the first automation in our new area. This is going to be the HV and EV automation area, while as this was the MV and HV automation area, primarily MV. Over here, we're going to try and do mostly HV with MV sprinkled in, or EV sprinkled in. So here, I have a CEF connected to our power setup, and this line is going to be used solely for producing titanium, I think. I might add something later, but for now, it is titanium only. So let's see. Blast furnace can go right there, and I'll probably mess with this wall a little bit, make it look a little bit better, but that's not really an issue for right now. And let me set this blast furnace up, and I'll be right back. Okay, and here's our entire blast furnace setup for the processing and reprocessing of everything that goes into titanium, with the exception of chlorine, because we're making chlorine elsewhere. Let's go ahead and run through the steps really quickly. First of all, I have two advanced chemical reactors here, creating the titanium tetrachloride. It uses chlorine, carbon, and rutile dust to make that. That goes into here, and the titanium tetrachloride with a little bit of magnesium, which I shove in the top through an interface and an item conduit, is turned into the hot titanium ingot, as well as, well, I can show that in here. It makes the hot titanium ingot, as well as 6 of these magnesium chloride dusts. The hot titanium ingot, for now, is just in our system. We need to add it to our vacuum freezer, or whatever it's called. The magnesium chloride dust goes into this advanced electrolyzer, and 3 at a time, it gets turned into magnesium dust and shoved into this tank, which is chlorine. Well, it creates the chlorine, which gets shoved into this tank, which is set to a really low priority, because I want this chlorine to get used first, and set back into here. Essentially, all that making titanium costs, because all of the magnesium that goes in comes out in the reprocessing step. It uses, if you look here, it uses 2 magnesium, and you make 6 of these magnesium chlorides. 3 of these magnesium chlorides turns back into 1 magnesium, which means we are sitting pretty on magnesium. It should never go, except for the stuff that's, currently in the system. That means that making titanium costs a little bit of rutile, a little bit of carbon, and a little bit of salt. That's it. It's almost completely free. It just takes some time. And it looks like this blast furnace is actually running slower than the tetrachloride is being created now, which is fine with me because this stuff is being created fairly slowly, and this blast furnace is now running at eevee, which means we're creating this about as fast as we can, at least at this level. Now, let's take a check, and I have 56 ingots of titanium. Let's run these over to my other automation area and shove them in the vacuum freezer. I'm going to go ahead and put a dedicated terminal right, let's say here, for putting the hot ingots into the terminals here. So it should be fairly simple. I burn my hands a little bit, shove them into there, and they should be provided to the input buses, and it should get working. Is this thing running fast enough? It's running at HV. I might add another HV energy input so we can run this at EV. Alright, I added 1 more energy input, which means we're running it at EV now, and this should be plenty fast enough that we don't ever actually have to make another vacuum freezer. This thing should run fast enough to keep up with all of the things that we need to cool. And now if we look in here, we are getting titanium ingots fairly quickly right now because we're freezing all of those things. However, this is actually running pretty fast. I do need to set up automation for this, or well, the automation is set up. However, I need the level emitter. I need to set up a level emitter to make this turn off at some point. I want it to turn off when I get somewhere around maybe 3,000-4,000 ingots. So I just add the controller. It disables itself for a second because I need to set the filter, titanium. Just give me 1 of those, and I'll say, when I have 3,000 in my system, you can take a break. 3,000? Let's do 5,000. 5,000. You can take a break at 5,000. Looks like it's raining outside. The next thing I want to do is set up a multi-smelter, and that is made like this, and it looks like this. It looks like a bad blast furnace. It looks like a wrongly built blast furnace. However, to do this, I want to make these Nichrome ingots first. This makes the 3rd tier coil blocks, and it's super simple to make. You just need a little bit of chrome and a little bit of nickel. It needs to be made in a blast furnace, so I need to set up more blast furnaces. And I went ahead and reserved these spots right here for 4 more blast furnaces. Or not 4 more. 4 more blast furnaces on each side. So we have 8 total blast furnaces to be used eventually. I'm going to set this one up for Nichrome. So I'll do that, and I'll be back in just a moment. Now, chrome does have to be blast furnaced before it can, be used. What I'm going to do, I think, is just make it by hand now. I'm not going to set up a chrome specific blast furnace because this is actually kind of my general use blast furnace. I'm going to manually throw in 64 of them, and it should go. I don't think it takes very long. Nah, it's pretty fast. We should be fine. And each chrome ingot makes 5 nichrome ingots, so, you know, that should be just about okay. So here we have our thing. Let me get a little bit of chrome and a little bit of nickel so I can supply it to the, I'm gonna supply one craft at a time to the interface. Actually, let's not overdo it here. So 4 nickel and 1 chrome, and then I'll extract them into the input buses they're supposed to be in, and output bus into, I'll just use an item conduit to extract and throw into this guy. There we go. Okay, the blast furnace is entirely set up. I just need to set the filter, and I also am going to keep 256 of these in stock, just like the canthal, because this isn't really useful for much else except for, well, this eventually, but this is way off, and yeah, it looks like it's just for the coils, which is perfectly fine. It just means I don't need a lot of it, which is actually more fine than, like, say something like titanium. Wow. Because I need to make thousands and thousands of this. Also, let's check. I have 151 pieces of titanium. That should be enough to get started on some eevee machines, potentially. I'm waiting on a bit more nichrome to make my multi-smelter. However, in the meantime, I think we should be able to make this tier 4 circuit recipe. What I've been using right now is the mainframe recipe, which is, where's tier 4? This one, which is this, which is very expensive because it has to go through refined processors, and these refined processors, and these 4th tier refined circuits, which I'm making, which is fine. It just needs to use like a stack of these to make one of these, which is not very cool. If we go for these guys, I can do the tier 3 circuits, which use 3 of these. So it's a better ratio. I use 12 of these, which I can make directly, which is 3 crafts, to make one of these, which is, you know, it's acceptable. For now, this is what I'm going to do. Eventually, I can make better tier 4 circuits once I get an eevee assembler. However, that's a little bit off. Let's go ahead and go throw this into our circuit maker. Which one will you go in? Probably the one that has the tier 1s and tier 2s. And I think I'm going to get rid of the earlier circuit recipes because I just simply don't need them anymore. If I ever run into a circuit conflict, I'm just going to go ahead and change the recipe in the system to use or dictionary or the recipe that I wanted to use. So now if I say want 10 of these microprocessor arrays, the circuits, the tier 4 circuits, I only need to craft 40 of these processor assemblies, which I'm already making and are already available. So I can go ahead and start that. And we should be getting them fairly soon. The titanium plates are crafting up, which are actually very expensive because I don't have a lot of titanium right now, but slowly but surely it's building up. And there we go, our first 10 microprocessor arrays. That crafting recipe actually took 30 seconds. It's really nice. And let's go ahead and see, what are we missing before this? Titanium. Have I never picked up a piece of titanium? Let's go ahead and do that really quick. No? What's going wrong here? Oh, I never picked up a bucket of titanium tetrachloride. Let me do that really quick. I'm really glad it's making me do this because, one, it made me realize an issue with my system. I never set this conduit to extract on the right color, so this one wasn't working, which means we weren't getting the things that we needed. Give me the titanium tetrachloride. Perfect. Now we should have completed all of these recipes. I did hot titanium, and then titanium is also complete, and then the circuits are complete, and eevee machine holes can now be made. And there we go, we just went over the mark that we needed to make the 8 nichrome coil blocks. Let me grab everything I need to make the multi-smelter, and I'll be right back. I'm thinking for our truly final thing to put in this room, I can put our multi-smelter right here. We have a little bit extra room, and might as well use it. Looks like I forgot to grab the heat-proof casing, and I don't have an interface there anymore. I'll be right back. The multi-smelter quite literally looks like a blast furnace. That is just a little bit short. Nothing special. You can do the input and output in any single fashion, the same way as a blast furnace, and it only needs 8 of these coil blocks, which means it is pretty cheap. Okay, so I have an input bus. I'm going to throw that on the top right here. and then output bus is going to go probably right here. Oh, I had an interface right there. Whoopsies. I'm going to move this interface, throw an interface down here, make it not show, connect it to the network with the glass cables, and that's going to be our input into the system. This is going to be a input bus, which is going to use small storage crate as a buffer, and then I'm going to throw a ton of interfaces on this. So let me go rename these actually, so we can know where to put our multi-smelter recipes. The interfaces are all renamed to multi-smelter. Now I just shove them up here, throw a couple of glass cables on. The wiring's going to be a little bit janky, but you know, nothing in this room is all that pretty, and it doesn't matter. So we're not going to use blocking mode. This thing will auto pull, and since it smelts so fast, that literally will not be a problem. So I believe this thing can process approximately 18 things at a time with this coil. It starts at 6, and then 12 is canthal, and this is 18. It's also really, really fast, so that should be fine. Eventually, I think it can process up to a stack or two of materials with the higher coils. Let's see. With fusion coils, yeah, it looks like it can process a stack and a half? 2 stacks? And it gives a huge energy discount. Oh man, we're not even close to there yet. However, let's go ahead and move some of my furnace recipes from in here. We don't need these to be in here anymore. They can all go into the multi-smelter. One thing that's actually fairly slow to smelt up in an electric furnace is wrought iron. And I've been using an electric furnace this whole time. However, now that it's in the multi-smelter, it should go a lot faster. So let me order, let's say 500 pieces, and see how the multi-smelter does. I ordered 500 because I'm fairly scared that this thing is going to finish smelting before I got here. And let's see what it's burned through already. Yeah, it's basically done. Oh man. Can I check? I can check if I put this down. Yeah, it's already processed 300 ingots. This thing is next level. Before I finish this episode off, let's set up a couple of quality life improvements. Mainly this fire water, and then I need to improve nitric acid and methanol production. I'm going to need a capacitor for this. Okay, I made some octadic capacitors, which means these guys are very, very fast, or, well, as fast as they can be. And is this not connected to power? Is there not power under there? Oh, there's not power under there. Let me move you really quickly. My goal is to create fire water, and there it's getting power. First things first, I need some water, which I can just use my ender tank for, and auto export into there. And then I need poisonous potatoes and sugar, and that will turn slowly but surely. Yep, it fills up the tank first, and then it turns it into hooch. And it's pretty fast. Can we get it on camera? That's the question. It's almost done, and it turns into 2 buckets of hooch. I'm going to push that into this next vat, which needs redstone and fire water. And this will turn this into fire water. I might make a couple buckets of fire water and just let this run for a moment. However, this is obviously not a permanent setup. I mean, I'm putting it in the middle of my hallway right now. That's not how it's going to happen. So, give me a bucket, please. Thank you. And then we can go down to the bedrock and we can... Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. We can take a bucket of this. Can I just... I can. Okay, we can take a bucket of this and go down to the bedrock and set it on the bedrock and get grains of infinity automatically. It really doesn't matter where I go down, and I want it to be in my loaded chunks, so let's put it comfortably in my loaded chunks and go down to bedrock right here. Oh, hello cave. And welcome to bedrock. There's a little bit of a lava pool right there, so that isn't hollowed out completely. However, we're never going to be down here, so it doesn't matter how it looks. I put a couple of feral flare lanterns just so like nothing can spawn here, just in case this fire water doesn't cover the entire thing. So the fire water is here. This is going to, instead of having to burn the bedrock by ourselves, it's going to do it for us. So what I can do is put an ender chest right here. You can see I just picked up a grain of infinity, vacuum chest there, throw that into there, and that should collect them when they pop. It's a little bit slow. I actually haven't seen one pop up since the the last time I recorded, which was like a minute ago now. However, all I have to do is grab a couple item conduits and pull into the ender chest and insert into our ME system. And we should have fully automated Grains of Infinity. Slow, but we don't need that many anyways, so it should be fine. Now I can go back up to my terminals, close off this hole, and never think about it ever again. Alright, the fire water is set up. Now I want to set up better producers for methanol, nitric acid, and nitrogen dioxide. This one is going to be nitrogen dioxide. I need nitrogen and oxygen to be configured here, and I need to connect it to the network just like that. It should go into here. Hello? Oxygen. Hello? It'll come there eventually. And then I can pump and tell it to import, and eventually it will all get shoved into here. Let me go check my oxygen producers. I checked my oxygen producers and it seems we are running out. I think the main problem with that is that I used to be getting oxygen from electrolyzing ruby and into chrome, I think. However, that process is running a lot slower now because I turned off a couple of the things that I turned off 2 of these because they were sucking up my redstone too fast, which means I am not getting as much ruby, which means I'm not getting as much oxygen from this system because these machines are pretty much never on. Very slowly it'll build up ruby, but like very, very slowly. So I think to combat that, I am also going to make the cryogenic air distillation. I don't know if I'm going to do it in this episode, but I am definitely going to make it. To make the methanol, I'm going to use carbon dioxide and hydrogen. And then I'm going to, wait, is that correct? Please tell me this is correct. Yeah, carbon dioxide and hydrogen. A lot of it to make a little bit, but that's fine because they're both very, very plentiful, and I'm not using it for anything else. So it should be going into there, and slowly when this fills up, it will be fine. However, I do need to set a fluid trash can to ditch the excess. Actually, I think this is going to be a better recipe. I actually have a ton of carbon monoxide, and I can configure this titanium thing to also create carbon monoxide. I just need to put another storage bus instead of trashing it, or I think that's over here. Instead of trashing it, I need to put another storage tank, and then I should be able to do it like this. I need the carbon dioxide out of this system, though. Okay, now I want this to import carbon monoxide and hydrogen, and this needs a circuit, doesn't it? It needs a circuit on 0, and let's go. Okay, it's fairly quick, and now I don't have to worry about a byproduct, which is nice. I'm not using the carbon monoxide for anything, so this will be a great way to produce the methanol, which is useful for things, and I have no issue with hydrogen. I have 64,000 buckets of hydrogen in the system at any given time. So this will backlog, and I can start sending it to this system. Let me partition it, and I'm going to set the priority to -1,000, so this stuff will get used before the other methanol. Now let's make some more nitric acid. I'm going to use this recipe, which is water, oxygen, and nitrogen dioxide. I need to configure this to hold nitrogen dioxide, and then where is, did I say oxygen? Oxygen. And then I need to put water in here somehow. The way I'm going to do that is put an ender tank under it and tell it to export, and it actually does it. So that's kind of cool. I can just hide the ender tank right there and never have to see it ever again. Put the pump there, configure it to import, and it should begin importing the nitrogen dioxide from here, which is backing up and now beginning to produce more. We do have an oxygen problem, but for now this should be okay. And there it goes, off to the races. As soon as I can supply it with oxygen, it looks like this thing will be able to make nitric acid. So let's consider making that the cryogenic air distillation thing. I said I might not do it, but I think we have the time. And let me partition this before everything goes to other places, and I want this to be used up first. Okay, good. I set that just in time. Another fluid would have definitely come in there if it entered the system. This thing is outstandingly large, but it's not expensive. At least at this point in the game, not expensive. I am going to, however, want 2 of these. And I'm going to need another vacuum freezer to freeze air, to cool air into liquid air. So this liquid air will give nitrogen, oxygen, noble gases, and carbon dioxide. And then I'm going to want another one to react to noble gases to get argon, neon, krypton, helium, and xenon. All of these will get used later, but I want to start producing them now because, some of these other ones we're going to need fluid or solidified forms of, and a lot of solidified forms of them, and they produce very slowly because you only get 1 bucket of this, or 1 bucket of noble gases per 53 buckets of air. So let me gather all the materials together for this, and I'll be right back. It's actually looking like this isn't going to be doable today. So let's look at how much modularium I have. I have 193 modularium. However, I need 10 of these fluid outputs. Where are they? I need 10 of these. That's 100 of my modularium. Don't worry about the buckets or the hoppers. I can craft those up really quickly. This modularium, that's half my modularium. I need a couple of these. That's more modularium. I need inputs and all that kind of stuff. I don't have enough right now, so let's go ahead and set up a process for modularium, and then we can call it a day. This blast furnace is just going to use the Cupronickel coil blocks because, coils don't affect speed, and I'm going to use the cheapest ones that I have available to me. So I'm going to need 2 input buses and 1 fluid input hatch. Let's all face these upwards just like I always do so they'll auto import, and I have approximately 300 buckets of deuterium available to me. So let's throw it in there, and I need, what is it again? Energetic blend and steel dust. Alright, there's the blast furnace completed. I'm just running this one at HV because we don't need to run it any faster. I have the macerator and the mixer up here with filters set to input the right things, and we've already backstuffed it. So we should be producing modularium just fine. I put a level emitter here, so we will stop when we get to 500 modularium. We're already at 200, so we've made like 10, but I think that's all the time that I have for today. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, maybe leave a like or something like that, and have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.